people, what's going on? So by the dial, we continue in our glass of water and the candle conversations. Today we're talking about the purpose of meditation, and the benefits of it. Okay. Meditation. Meditation, when we're using the word meditation, this is an Eastern philosophical term. So when we categorize meditation from the Eastern perspective is a person in a specific demeanor or position or pose, and they are exercising particular breathing techniques, and in these breathing techniques, in their silence, they are traversing their psyche. In the African view of meditation, it is not so. It is not as structured in that sense as it is in the Eastern part of the world, or their philosophical ideas about the terms and the benefits or the outcomes of meditation as opposed to the African. Our meditation takes place a lot of times during initiations, and gradual initiations and major initiations. In the gradual initiations, we have something that we call a rogation or a boledi. And the rogation consists of a concoction of coconut meat and juice mixed in with cocoa butter and cascarilla and honey and a little bit of water. And this concoction is placed in certain points in the body to feed the body, so they say, or to feed the soul. And in that, one is sat by themselves to meditate. Eyes are closed. You are in a receiving position, and they leave you for several minutes, depending on the amount of time that they have in between ceremonies. And they call it in Spanish, they refer to it as penitencia, right? In Lukumi, they call it penitencia when someone is they are, separated from everyone else. They can't talk. They just got to sit with their eyes closed, and this is where you meditate. And you meditate to find space to receive this new information and this new conscious energy that you are about to partake or be introduced to, right? So in the beginnings, like, okay, a person was receiving their warriors, right? Before they can receive their warriors, or even after, they should receive a rogation, a boledi. And in that, you're using the icons that are now available to them as the focal point of the altar, and they're going to receive their rogation in front of their Elegba, Ogun, Ochosi, and Osun. And this is the time when one finds alafia, peace, right? And so in this receiving position, the person is going to sit for several minutes and meditate while the candles burn. And This is to do self-inventory. Because no matter what the Orishas tell you, if you don't know, you can't take advice if you don't know yourself. If you have not come to a place where you yourself have come to acknowledge and accept your quirks, the good and the bad, then you are not going to progress because you are not seeing yourself in the mirror. And so, how do you know when you're talking with spirits or anything else when you don't know yourself? So you have to be able to decipher the sound of your voice in your head as opposed to the voice of outside influence, meaning spiritual. So you won't be able to know whether or not, because you have to know yourself. You have to know that, okay, if something is telling me to move and get going about things, that's probably not me, because I tend to be a little lazy. So I would rather do it tomorrow, but if there's a voice in my head that keeps complaining that I should do it now, it's probably from a divine or prophetic angle. So I should address that, because that's not my nature. My nature isn't to be pressed about moving the car from the street or to the driveway. But I keep hearing a voice, and the voice keeps telling me to move the car. And so I get up and I go downstairs and I move the car and I put the car in the driveway. And later on that night, I hear a car accident and it wrecked all the cars that are parked on the street except for mine, because mine is in the driveway. So in order to be able to respect that voice in your head and to know, so that you understand that it's spirit and understand that it's not your imagination, you have to get in touch with yourself. And in order to get in touch with oneself, you need time for yourself. So if you live with someone, let's say hypothetically, this is why children are a lot of times way more spiritual, because children have a moment, especially those children that are only children or in a stressful situation, those children that sleep by themselves have the peace of nothing but their thoughts, right? If you lay in the bed with somebody else, you gotta talk before you go to bed. You close your eyes before you know it, you done went to sleep, you wake up and you gotta do it again. But when do you have the time for yourself to just sit with yourself, with your empty thoughts, and allow things to come across your desk and be clear? And so in order to do that, one has to take time for oneself. Now, I am not a fanatic that one necessarily has to have a yoga mat and you have to sit in a set position. You could actually meditate in your car. Like you going to work, before you get to work, you go to work early that day. And when you get to the parking lot, before you pull into the parking lot, pull over on the other side of the other parking lot and sit for a minute and turn the music down and take a few deep breaths and just hear yourself. Nothing else. Before you even get to right? Or before you get to Omi Padme and all that, just get to just being silent. Because we live in a world of constant outside influence. And so it's very rare that someone has the moment to actually know who they are. Because you don't know, because you're constantly being inundated with outside influence. Eat this food, get your taxes done here, shop here, wear these clothes, drink this liquor, look at that girl, isn't that funny? These are all implants that are being shot at you. When do you have a moment to just sit by yourself and think about nothing? Self-inventory. It is a very integral part of meditation. If you're not doing that for meditation, then you're not going to be able to center yourself, right? And so you can read all the self-help books you want. You can go to all the lectures and all the seminars. if you're not real with yourself, then you're just going to be back to square one. And the other part of meditation is getting the ability to organize one's energy so that you have to sit with yourself so that you can hear your own body. Think about that. Hearing your own body, being able to lay down with nothing on and start to wiggle your toes, and from wiggling your toes, try to move all of the body parts all the way up by themselves and feel them. A lot of times people in this, especially in this day and age, they don't feel themselves. The only time they have any interaction with the flesh is on a sexual nature, or if they go to the doctor, or if they got into a fight. And you must be able to feel yourself. This is when people talk about let me pinch myself to make sure it's real. Well, you got to be able to feel yourself. And so it's important that you take that time to organize that energy so that you can, this is how you get to understanding how to move the chakra energy. In just laying down in a peaceful environment, nothing around you, no one on, no TV, no music, and just lay down and try to feel your toenails again. Without clipping them, without stubbing them, without think about, can you feel your toenails? Because we live in a status of like in between. It's an in between state that we live in this reality in terms of moving these flesh bodies around, because a lot of people don't stimulate the body outside of, again, sex, violence, right? Or self-deprecation, right? You know, getting surgeries, piercings, tattoos. People are doing these things in this day and age to feel something because they're not connected to anything. And so so when you talk about Reiki, and you see people talk about Reiki, Reiki is the ability to understand that there's a magnetic pulse emanating off your body. You want to be able to necessarily take your hand and be so in touch and so in tune that you can block out all the other parts of your body, that your hand will talk to you and tell you how many megahertz of energy are coming off this person, right? And this is what Reiki does, so that you can feel the energy and be able to manipulate it from your own magnetic grounding point and shift that energy from one part of the body to the next, so that you can proverbially cure circulation problems, right? This is what they talk about when they talk about the first guitars in Africa were used as medical instruments to strum the banjo. The banjo would give an octave that went through the body that would necessarily unclog certain systems, the mucus in the body, unclog the blood, the water, a lot of things. And so this meditation, one of the benefits is having the ability to learn how to feel the energy and then organize it and compartmentalize it into certain things. It's like running a marathon. In that 25th hour, you have to be able to kick in so that you can keep the machine going. You just running, you just pushing the buttons and keeping it on autopilot at that point. And this is this is organizing energy. This is organizing it and using it bit by bit, or disseminating it evenly. This is a very important thing. Like I said, marathons, a lot of people who do marathons come by way of some spiritual epiphany. To run is a very archaic and indigenous thing. It is the only exercise the body was actually really meant to do. Your body was not built to lift weights. it was meant to walk. In walking, all of the muscles of the body are being used. And so in running, people who run speak highly of a connection with God because they get to a point where they have to disconnect, and they're literally they're observing their body continually to move forward without the person being in total control, right? And this is when you see people and they start to cruise in their marathon. This is a direct benefit of meditation, because you have to be with yourself. Because people who get beat up in those marathons when they first do them, it's a test of themselves. Oh, come on, you got to keep doing it. They have to keep promoting themselves or egging themselves on to go, because they don't have the energy. They haven't properly been able to figure out how to use this energy, to use the energy of potential and what's the other that we talk about in school? They talk about potential energy and there's energy that's in motion, right? And so in meditation, you're able to take the time to be silent so that you could hear. If anyone listening has ever felt like they heard the ocean in their ear, like a whoosh, right? Whoosh. They're not crazy. These are indications, right? But the fact that you can hear that is only because a person has a sense of self, right? People who've been incarcerated and put in solitary confinement, those who don't crack and lose their minds, have a very good sense of meditation, because they have to be able to transcend this cell and let their soul travel, because it is not natural for the body, for the soul to be trapped, right? Okay. Indigenous psychology. Indigenous psychology is in total contradiction to Western psychology. Indigenous psychology is based on the instinct. And what I mean by that is that when animals give birth to a defective child, they don't have to wait weeks to see whether or not the child can see, hear, or whether or not the offspring can see or hear, or they can smell that this is a defective product. And so they terminate it. And with human beings, because we don't practice such savagery, we use the oracle as a means to dictate the intentions of this spirit here in this incarnation. And so in doing so, they are very prepared to deal with the reality of the advice, which may be that, at a certain point, this child, you're going to have to give him away because he's just not good, and he's going to always be a point of contention in your family. This is a very stoic way of thinking. But people who live their lives on logic and live their lives on technical advancements, and I'm speaking about indigenous people, psychology for them is the ability to understand that spiritual stuff affects your sanity. And so when they come to it, when a person is suffering from mental health issues, it is the responsibility of the shaman, the diviner, whatever priest that you want to call, to unravel the trauma and get to the seed of it. On the last live, I spoke about a family member who was deathly afraid of the sound of the toilet bowl flushing and how that affected him. And in African or indigenous psychology, it is the purpose of the divination to break through some of the traumas and go back in the past and see what these triggers are that make this person uneasy or unable to fit in the society, right? So their psychology is that, what are you eating? Where have you been? Who you beefing with? Right? Who put a curse on you? Somebody put some negative energy on you, right? And so why did they put this negative energy on you? Is it because you are just envied? Okay, that's possible. So if you're just envied, then let's give you these tools to keep the energy that people project on you from affecting you, right? Or is it these people are doing witchcraft to you because you have bad traits and you don't deal with people correctly? And so you've angered people because you are you move with impunity and you have no consequences. And so this is the psychology of the indigenous people. Like, there's a cause and effect in this.